Hello, my name is Ashley, this is Faithful Rattos, and welcome or welcome back. So in today's video, I'm going to be introducing you to my keepers from my very first litter. Now, this has been a long time in the making, but there's been lots of stuff going on that's just not let me have time to sit down and make this video, because I wanted to introduce you to them in detail and talk about them individually. And, I just wanted to really talk to you about the whole experience as well, as I've been saying in a couple of videos recently, because obviously these guys have been with their in the main groups for a while now, and their siblings have gone off to their wonderful new homes quite a number of weeks ago now. And so I am feeling a lot of emotions around the whole thing, and I just want to start off by saying that I know that breeding isn't always easy and it won't always be like this, but this first experience was absolutely lovely. There was no sort of major concerns at any point, apart from the first couple of days of Sophie's first smaller litter. It's just been really wonderful, and I'm so grateful for everyone who's helped out with advice, or especially the breeders who offered me foundations that I could use to start my line. And yeah, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience. And just growing closer to the mums while they were pregnant and while they had their babies and everything, it was just wonderful. And I'm under no illusion that it's all going to be easy. And, rehoming the ones I don't need to keep is also not simple. But yeah, it's been wonderful. And I'm so excited to introduce my keepers to you. I'm going to introduce them to you in the order that I decided they're going to stay, and talk a little bit why I decided they were going to stay, and tell you about their names and stuff and what variety they are and how they may or may not fit into my plans going forward. So yeah, let's just get started, shall we? This is Lyra, and she is from the Betisa litter. So the Betisa litter was a litter of 13. One passed away on the first day. So we had 12 kittens that survived the whole time and did really well. Marissa is the mum of that litter, and BT is the dad, hence Betisa as the litter name. So Lyra is the first that I decided to keep. She is a Russian Wheaten, just standard top here. And the reason I decided to keep her is because she, at 11 days old, staged a nest break, which doesn't normally happen for a couple of days once the rats open their eyes. She and a couple of her siblings that she tagged along with her decided they were going to break out of the nest at mere 11 days old with no eyes. And this litter did open their eyes slightly later. Nothing like worrying or anything, but it was slightly later than is typical. And she was just so funny. And I just knew that I was going to keep a doe from Marissa's litter, and that she was going to be called Lyra. And that's because, Marissa is a character in His Dark Materials, and she is the mum of the main character, Lyra. And Lyra is adventurous and bold and strong and brave. And that, I just felt Lyra was that. So she got the name at 11 days old, which was very, very, very early to pick keepers. I do realise that. But she did turn out to be a really nice rat overall. Her temperament is lovely, as I knew at that point. And her type is good. Her head and eye are good. The only thing is, and you'll find she's the only Russian Wheaten that I did keep. And that's because Russian Wheaten doesn't have a standard, which means that because they don't have a standard, I can't show them in varieties. And it's not even like a winning thing. It's, I want to get people's opinions on them. So I didn't keep too many Russian Wheatens, but I am planning on, in the future, keeping more, because I do want to work on a standard. So that's Lyra, and her show name is Faithful. That's my prefix, as you probably know, Eve of Jordan, because, I can't really explain that without spoilering His Dark Materials for you, but if you know His Dark Materials, you know that. And so, yeah, Lyra is a bold, brave, lovely girl, and yeah, she's been special to me since 11 days old. So I'm going to put her back and get the next baby. So this is Prune, and she is the next baby that I decided to keep. So she is from Sophie's litter, the Sophox. This was a litter of only 3, which is unusually small, and there was a little baby who was smaller than the other 2 that I was initially quite worried about, but she caught up really well, and there was never actually any concern with her. So there's no worry there. So Sophox, Sophie is the mum, Sophinax, and Burdock is the dad, hence Sophox. And Prune is a sable Wheaten Rex, as you can see, and she is a lovely, lovely girl. So when Rex babies are little, they're actually quite curly, quite a lot curlier than the does especially turn out to be. And because of that, I was holding them in my hands. I think they were about 3 weeks old. They kind of had their eyes open. They were a bit like wiggly, but they weren't sort of like super adventurous. And I was holding the babies. So all of the 3 babies from Sophie's litter were Rexes. And I was holding them in my hands. And then I think I gave the others to Rat Dad. And I was holding Prune as a baby. And Rat Dad goes, wow, these Rexes, they do really look like prunes, don't they? And I'm like, stop, hold on, that's it. And then I had this question, what even is a prune? And we asked what a prune was, and she told us that prunes are dried plums. Which, if you know anything about me and my past, like, rats or anything, you know that one of my heart rats was called Plum. Now, Plum was very special because he was unfortunately, we lost him when he was a baby, but we got him right after, not right after, but he was like one of the first rats we got after my outbreak. And my Bordetella outbreak obviously was really difficult and really emotional, and it was just really hard, and I was stuck in a rut. And when Plum's breeder showed me a picture of him when he was 2 weeks old, I just knew he was the one. And Plum was actually, he was named after another rat that I had lost too soon. And so he was really special, and unfortunately we did lose him pretty young, and I got his ears tattooed on my wrist because of that. But he was really special to me because I knew that I loved him so much from like the first picture I saw of him. But I also wouldn't have been able to get out of the funk that the outbreak of Bordetella had put me in without him. So he's really special, and he's actually the brother of my foundation girl's great grandma. Oh, you can probably hear her sniffing. So he's actually like the great uncle of these babies. And so when this came together, when I realized that prunes are dried plums, and that obviously he is a relative of these babies, I just knew she was called Prune and that she was going to stay. She was the biggest and felt like she was going to have the best type out of the 3. So that's another reason why I decided to keep her, and she is beautiful. The only downside to her is that she's a sable, which means that I ideally need to breed her to a Siamese, which is going to be difficult this time around because I didn't get any Siamese out of the litters. But she is a lovely girl. Her show name is Faithful Fruit of the Plum Tree, as a nod, obviously, to her. But yeah, so Prune is very special. She is a lovely, lovely, sweet girl. All of these babies, I looked out a lot. They're very, like, brave and sociable and courageous, and they love to explore. But they also aren't against a bit of a cuddle sometimes. So yeah, this is Prune, and she was the second one that I chose to keep. Now, Prune, she was chosen about 3 weeks old. So the younger litter was about 3 weeks old, and the older litter was about 4 weeks old. And this was at the point where I was trying to start making a decision about who I was going to keep and what that would look like and which ones I would have available for homes, etc., etc. And I knew going into this that I wanted to keep at least 3 girls and at least 2 boys, and preferably not many, many more than that because I didn't want my numbers to go extreme. So I was looking at the girls that I had, and out of the 2 litters, I had 2 Russian Wheatens top ear, a Wheaten top ear, a Wheaten Dumbo, a Russian Wheaten Dumbo, 2 Wheaten Dumbo Rexes, and the Sable Wheaten Rex. So I knew that I was keeping one of the Russian Wheatens. I knew that I was going to keep Prune, the Sable Wheaten Dumbo. And I was looking at the others based on which variety they were, their temperament, and their type and everything, and really assessing them all for type and temperament. They were all very good, and I would have bred from any of them. There was none that I thought, oh, that I wouldn't breed from that. You know, in reality, some were better than others, and I was looking between all the rest of them, And I was mainly looking at the other girls from the BT litter, and that was the Wheaton Dumbo and the Wheaton Topia. And the Wheaton Topia, I just felt she had a bit more racy type compared to some of the other does, and I don't want to breed too cobby of a doe, if that makes sense. They're not sort of as desirable. And so Lyra is a little bit cobby, not in a massively extreme way. She's still got lovely type, but I did want to pick somebody that's a bit more like slender, and not to say that like Lyra's fat, but like slender in their body type, sort of more racy and long. And Dare fit that description pretty well. Who's the next one I'm going to introduce you to? So this is Dare. She is a Wheaton Topia. She's one of the quieter rats, but she has a lovely head and eye. She has really good type and all the things. Like her head is pretty, and I just knew that this was probably the right choice going forward for like being able to breed what I want to breed and stuff like that. I also didn't want to keep too many Dumbos because I don't want all the line to be Dumbo. That's just not what I want. So that is how Dare was chosen. It was probably around 5-ish weeks or so. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. So Dare is named after Rachel Elizabeth Dare in the Percy Jackson series. This is a bit of a spoiler, but she does become the Oracle of Delphi. So her show name is Faithful Oracle of Delphi, or Delphi, whatever you want to say. She is a lovely girl. She's a little bit more wriggly than the others, as you can see, but she's very sweet. Her type is great. And yeah, I'm just so happy with these rats overall. Yeah, it's just been absolutely so wonderful. And it was hard to make the decisions because they were all so good. I'm going to put her back because she's very wriggly. It was really difficult because there wasn't ones that I was like, yeah, no, you've got a temper I don't like, or you've got type I don't like. They were all really good. So I was more having to make hard decisions, or decisions based on which varieties would be best going forward to sort of like, the future breeding plans, to make sure I have everything that I need. And I don't have everything that I need because there was no Siamese in these litters, which was really unfortunate, because I feel like if Sophie had one more baby, it might have been a Siamese based on sort of how genetics work. And we now probably almost certainly know that BT is actually a sable, which is why there was no Siamese in his litter, even though Marissa was Siamese. It was difficult making those decisions, especially for the girls, because most of the girls are actually a different variety from each other, or a different combination of variety if you include ear type and coat type. So yeah, I'm going to move on to the boys because I'm going to leave the last girl for last, and you'll see why. You'll see why. So the two boys, we didn't have any boys in Sophie's litter. So these are both from Marissa and BT's litter, the BTsers. In this litter, I had 7 boys. I had 3 Russian Wheaton Dumbos, 2 Wheaton Dumbos, and 2 Wheaton Toppies. And I knew that I wasn't really wanting to keep too many Dumbos, nor was I really wanting to keep too many Russians. And I Russian Wheaton specifically. Russian Burmese is easier for me to keep. But Russian Wheaton, since they don't have a standard, and I do want to get my opinions, and I do want to get opinions on them, it's really difficult. And I knew that I was going to keep Lyra, and she's a Russian Wheaton. She can't be shown in varieties because there's no standard. And also Prune can't be shown in varieties because Sable Wheaton doesn't have a standard. So I knew that if I really did need to pick standardized varieties out of the boys, just to make sure that I could get, different opinions on them and that sort of stuff. When it came to the boys, there was the 2 Wheatons and the 2 Dumbos, and I just chose the best out of those pair, 1 Dumbo and 1 Topia, because I did want to keep another Dumbo because I love Dumbos and I love to have the variety. And what actually turned out to be, out of those 4 that I was considering, the 2 that I chose were actually the best 2 out of the 4 as well. So that was really nice. They had slightly better head definition, their eyes were better, their ears were less wiggly and creased. They also had better type, very marginally. It wasn't like a huge difference, but they did have slightly better type. So these were an easy pick in that terms. So let's start off with the Dumbo. So Rat Dad actually named the boys, since I named all the girls that happened by accident. So this is Porter. He is a Wheaten Dumbo. He is lovely. He actually won Best Novice at the show this weekend, which if you watched my last vlog, you would know. But yeah, he is a lovely, lovely boy. His type is great. He's only about 12 weeks old, but he's already starting to get that bucky type. His ears are great. He doesn't have creases in his ears. They're pretty round and open. He's a lovely, sweet boy as well. Yes, you are. So yeah, I'm really, really happy. So his show name is Faithful Porter of Essentials. So they were both named after Sam Bridges Porter from Death Stranding, because BT, their dad, Rat Dad always makes a joke about him being a BT, which is it's something to do with that game. So he named them from that game. I don't really know very much about Death Stranding, only that they have babies in tanks. Anyway, so this is Porter. He is a lovely Wheaten Dumbo. He is a sweet guy, such a sweet guy. And yeah, he's gorgeous. He has such nice definition in his head, which I think is often, especially poorly bred Dumbos, definitely struggle with head definition. So I had to keep him because his head definition was outstanding, and that's one of my personal preferences. Now, obviously, I don't want it to be like a complete right angle and like really severe, but having the definition at the brow bone is something that I'm really, really a fan of. So he is a very good boy, and he is the pick out of the Dumbos. And this is his brother, who is obviously a top-eared Wheaten. His name is Bridges, and his show name will be Faithful Bridge Baby. Yes. Yes, look at him. He's such a sweet boy. Again, he just had fractionally better type, and his head was more defined, and his ears were less creased. Yes! Yes, yes. Yes. So these boys were chose at about 5-ish weeks old, because I wanted to start to make allocations around 6-7 weeks for the ones I wasn't keeping. So yeah, that's what happened, isn't it? And yeah, he does have a cut on his tail at the moment. He is a lovely boy. He also did very well at the show, and he got the Wheaten stars, didn't you? You got 2 stars already. Yeah, yeah. As you can see, the boys are a little bit more calm than the girls are. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? Okay. Now, I'm going to put the bows away, and we're going to talk about the last little one. So, in Sophie's litter, as I mentioned, there were only 3. And for a couple of days, I was actually quite concerned about one of those 3. She was obviously smaller and less developed than the other 2. Okay, hello. She was obviously smaller, and she did weigh smaller, but you could see visibly that she was smaller. And she was slightly behind developmentally as well. Not a great deal, like maybe a day. She wasn't getting the pigment at the same term. She wasn't, getting the dandruff at the exact same time. So she was definitely a little bit further behind than the other 2. Now, she wasn't behind technically, because the other 2 were actually a couple of days ahead, and I put this down to them only being a very small litter and having a lot of milk available to them. So she wasn't behind, like, if you actually look at the sort of timeline for rat development, but she was behind compared to her sisters. Not by a lot, but she was. And for a day or so, I was actually really worried that she wasn't going to make it. I had no reason to be worried about that. She was absolutely fine. She is a lovely girl. She isn't even particularly small. She's great. She's wonderful. But I was a bit worried, as, you do originally. And I did get a bit of a soft spot for her during those first couple of weeks, and I knew I needed to be good and not keep a bunch of rats that I didn't need or that weren't the best choices. But she nestled into my heart, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to give her up. I knew I was going to have to keep her. And then she started reminding me of Cheeky, who is a relative of hers on her dad's side. And we all know how important Cheeky was to me. She was, I think, probably one of the heart rats I've been the closest to. And I knew she wasn't going anywhere. So I ended up keeping her. And there was a name that even when I was speaking to some family members, like my cousin, I just knew that it would be so, so cute to name one of Burdock's children Dandelion. And here was one of Burdock's children that I was going to keep. And there was no way I was going to give her up. And so even though I'd been trying my best to not like name her in that way, I knew she was going to be called Dandelion and I was going to keep her. So let me introduce you to her now. So this is Dandelion. She is a Wheaten Rex Dumbo, and for a while I thought she was a Russian Wheaten because her pigment was pretty light. But she's obviously not a Russian Wheaten now. But yeah, she is so, so freaking sweet. Like, she's not bad type-wise. I think her head could be a little bit more defined, but she's not bad type-wise. So I'm going to see how she grows up, and she might have a litter. She probably won't, and that's okay. I just kept her because I think she is stinking adorable, and I love her very, very much. And so her show name is Faithful Hope of Spring. That's what the dandelions are, aren't they? And I was so worried about you, little pickle. I was, for no reason. Yeah, so that is a Dandelion, and she is technically the last one I officially decided to keep, and the last one I think to get. No, I think the boys were actually named after because Rat Dad just didn't know what he was going to name them. But yeah, she was the last one that I officially decided to keep, and I'm so glad that I did. I was trying my best to not make too many heart choices, and I I feel like I failed this time around. But I also looked out that my heart choices were actually like good choices. When it comes to Dandelion, that just isn't the case, is it, babe? No, but she's pretty. She's got nice ears when she holds them properly. They are a little bit wiggly, aren't they? Yes, they're a little bit wiggly. But she reminds me of Cheeky so much that I just couldn't say goodbye. I just couldn't. I just couldn't. You've got a cheeky face. Yes, you do. You look like your auntie. Those are the 6 rats that I've chosen to keep from my first litters. Yeah, I'm so super excited to watch these guys grow up and to see what happens. When it comes to breeding them in the future, I think I'm going to wait a generation to use these boys just to make sure that they don't have that hormonal phase. Because obviously I ended up breeding Burdock and Beatty pretty young, much younger than, you know, I would prefer to. And so I just want to make sure I haven't bred in anything like that. Burdock and Beatty don't seem to have any sort of like hormonal issues like that, so I should be okay, and these babies should be okay, but I just want to be extra sure. So I probably, never say never because we don't know what will happen, but I will probably end up using these, not in the generation that I breed next, but the next generation after that. The girls will probably be bred from most definitely Lyra and probably Prune, possibly Dare. It depends on how many I want to breed at the same time. Dandelion is less likely to be bred, but I don't care because she's cute, and that's why I kept her. And if I can't keep heart choices just for heart choices, there is no fun in this because I know there's going to be rough times ahead, and I'm just going to need a cute little face. So yeah, those are my keepers. I hope you love them as much as I do, and I will see you in my next video. But before then, you can subscribe if you want to stick around and see more of my breeding journey and see my educational content and my vlogs and stuff. You can also become a channel member, which is a really fun thing to do. There's different tier levels with different perks. Some of the perks include being mentioned at the end of videos, having a members only chat. There is also a chance for you to help me name my rats in the future. Yeah, if that's in something that you are interested in, please do become a channel member and stick around. And yeah, there is not much more to say, but thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!